Oh man, this Ademola Lookman transfer saga is dragging on a bit, but surely he's not the only potential option for Inter. Is there a plan B, or what should be Inter's plan B? That is the topic of today's video. We're gonna get a little bit of our, scouting or transfer guru hats on, guys. So put your hat on and make sure you leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel as we dive into this video, because the latest reports, as we see here on Inter Extra, confirmed by the Atalanta president Percassi, that they've received Inter's offer, but they haven't accepted it. And Sky Sport and Di Marzio saying that Inter not looking forward to, or not looking to press past the 45 million mark, which they've reached with the last offer. If this deal doesn't come through, are there other options? Sometimes, with Italian clubs, with Inter especially, seems like it's just one target and that's it. It can only be someone Serie A, within Serie A, Serie A experienced, and then there's nothing else out there. But as you will know, people that watch football around Europe, there are plenty of options. I mean, why do Inter want to sign Ademola Lookman? Christian Kivu has asked for Ademola Lookman because he wants an adaptable, flexible Inter team that can potentially change to a 3-4-2-1 formation. But why Lookman specifically? We know Lookman has scored, I think the stat is, after Lautaro, he is the top scorer in Serie A over the last 3 seasons. So consistently goals and assists over the last few seasons in Serie A. Reached his what we call the peak age of 26, so 27, and he's going to be 28 in the coming season as well. So right in his peak, the game changer player that can dribble past players, which Inter miss, pace, unpredictability, also passing, through ball, creativity, complete package when it comes to goal scoring or chance creation. So now let's take a look at some of those metrics, putting them into data MB. So what I'm looking at is quite simplistic, maybe too simplistic for some of you guys might be, but basic. We're going very basic. So dribble attempted per 90 versus goals per 90, and this is between the top 5 leagues. So first, let's look at the forward category. So this is what Data MB are categorizing as the wingers. I'm guessing the forward. So you can see, outside of the monsters out there like Ousmane Dembele, who has 1.02 goals per 90 and 7.1 dribbles attempted per 90, absolute monster. No one gets near him. After all these monstrous players, some players have had massive, maybe overperforming seasons, but Lookman is right there. He is in those monstrous numbers. Just below those monstrous numbers, you got Vinicius up here, Lamine, and you got Jeremy Doku, just in terms of just dribble monster. So the guys higher up in this side are more dribblers. The guys that are higher here are the ones that are scoring more goals per 90. But you can see the appeal of Ademola Lookman. But as you can see right here, I've highlighted a few, and these are the ones I want to talk about and highlight. But as you can see, there's plenty of others. So you guys in the comments below might be saying, oh, I don't see my guy in there. So you let me know in the comments below what other players Inter should be looking at. So these are guys that could be in the price range as well. I mean, Dan Ndoye, who just looks like will be signed by Nottingham Forest, half an hour down the road from me here in Nottingham. We know Inter were interested in him, maybe as a wing back, which is probably why Inter didn't go for him, because in the end he's being signed for what, 45 million, and we signed Luis Enrique for 25. And probably he didn't want to be a full-time wing back, but Dan Ndoye would have given you that flexibility. If you signed Dan Ndoye for 40, he could have been your Luis Enrique, could have been the wing back, plus been the option for the 3-4-2-1 formation. And is a guy that at 24 years of age still has that extra gear to give. We know that he is doing well in his dribbles. He started to put more output last season at Bologna, his best season yet, but under a better team, with the the right setup around him, could have been even better. But we missed out on that one. A name that, and there's a lot of Bundesliga names after that. I think Bundesliga is probably one of the most interesting leagues in terms of when it comes to getting talent and for a good price. So these are all, I'm talking about the realistic ones now. As I said, I've eliminated the impossible ones like Doué. I mean, Juve just signed Conceição. You can see why they shelled out 30 million. They already paid 10 million for the loan last season. Guys like this do make a big difference in your team, even if they don't have the final product yet. But one name I want to talk about, we saw there was a slight link that we saw in the media. I don't think it was any, and I don't think many other sources talked about it. I can't even remember who it was. But Xavi Simons, I mean, it looks like he's going to Chelsea. He would be like more like a midfielder option, almost like a guy that you could see even converting to Mezzala position, adds maybe a bit more, coming deeper, helping out with the passing a bit more. But again, dribbling, final product, assists as well. Xavi Simons would have been amazing, but he is going to Chelsea, so that's out of the bag. Some names that I've seen linked with Inter is Julio Enciso. He is more of a second striker, in my opinion, or a CAM, not really a winger. So, in my opinion, if you're changing to a 3-4-2-1 and you really want to add something different to the team, it has to be more of a winger type player that really adds a bit of pace and dribbling ability. Julio Enciso is a small Paraguayan striker that plays for, he's owned by Brighton, but he was on loan to Ipswich this past season. Still only 21, attempts a lot of dribbles, can shoot really well from outside the box. Good talent, but I would only look at him if we were talking about, a second striker in a 3-5-2. I don't think he is game changing enough as a, guy to bring in for what we're trying to do. But he's probably available for a much more affordable price than others, even though it is Premier League. He was loaned out last season. Looks like, Brighton probably would like to, make their money back on him. He's probably available on a loan with option or obligation to buy potentially. One name that I want to talk about is Nusa from Leipzig. This is a guy that Napoli have been linked with before they signed Noah Lang. I mean, Noah Lang could have been the name as well, but maybe a little bit too much of a wild card. But Nusa, if you watched Italy-Norway or Norway-Italy a few months back when Italy got smacked around by Norway, this guy was absolutely outstanding. Gave the Italy backline. Di Lorenzo had absolutely nightmares of this guy. 6.5 dribbles per 90 attempted. Not much of a finishing touch here. I think he's only got 4 goals in Bundesliga last season. But at 20 years of age, if you're not going to get the ready-made Lookman, this is an option for you to create your own Ademola Lookman. I think the talent, the ability, the pace, the dribbling, as we said, the creativity definitely is right there and fits in more with the Oak Tree project of, these players that we want to sign between the ages of 20 to 24, 25 max. Whereas Lookman, Lookman is the outlier where they're saying, Beppe Marotta, Ausilio went to Oak Tree and said, this is the guy that we can sacrifice our usual parameters that we've set of the age bracket and the cost. Nusa is a guy that comes back into that bracket for sure. Yes, maybe definitely not the finished product yet. Probably doesn't add the amount of goals and assists that Lookman could guarantee. But transfer fee wise, I've seen Liverpool link with him, as I said, Napoli link with him, and they're talking about more around the 30 to 40 million euro, and his salary would be lower as well. Another option, and now we're getting to more wild cards in this winger category, is Adeyemi, the Borussia Dortmund 23-year-old who was very close to joining Napoli last season. 6.6 dribbles attempted, 0.4, and now he probably is the quickest player in this whole video, in all the players that we discussed. This guy is absolutely rapid. Looks like the R&B artist The Weeknd, but not, again, maybe not the most technical or most guy that I would expect a lot of improvement in his final product, because he seems to be that guy that doesn't have too much composure in front of goal. But he could improve that. I remember he reminds me of a young Mo Salah, actually, Adeyemi. Mo Salah used to be like that in his early 20s when he was at Basel, Chelsea, Roma. He used to be very wasteful. Mo Salah back in his early days used to just use his speed, running behind, get in front of goal. Started to score a lot at Roma as well, but in general would be missing a lot of chances. Adeyemi, I think, has that potential to become, a type of Mohamed Salah, but he doesn't add too much, I think, in terms of build-up play, creativity on the ball. In my opinion, he would be that guy that you just get to run in behind. Another wild card similar to Adeyemi is Malik Fofana from Lyon. Again, another young player, 20 years of age, 5.4 dribbles per 90 attempted, 0.25 goals per 90. Very raw, very young. But again, this guy, if you bring him on, the last 20, 30 minutes of a game, or start him in a game where there is going to be more space to run in behind and attack people 1v1, this guy makes the difference, or could make the difference very much. And again, we're talking about potentially around the 30 to 40 million max mark. And then here, Bilal El Khanous, this is a guy I watched here locally at Leicester City. He did very well for Leicester in a struggling Leicester team that got relegated. Not much goals or assists or even the dribbles, actually. Just a name that I quite like again, but he's more of a number 10, I would say, but a guy to look out for in the coming years. So that was the winger category, or what the that Data MB categorizes as a winger category. Now let's get to the midfielders who come into this category again: dribbles attempted and goals per 90. And one name that I saw someone tweet out today on like Inter Twitter, on the Inter Twitter sphere, that Inter could be interested in. Inter were interested in the past, and we know that Auxilio, once a player is on his radar or on his notebook, he stays on that notepad. And that is Dejan Kulusevski, who, again, he can play as a mezzala potentially, which is what Conte wanted to sign him as all those years back. But in the 3-4-2-1, he can definitely, as he plays at Tottenham, play as one of those forward players. And key, which is something that's not been really discussed too much, he's left-footed. The issue potentially with Ademola Lookman coming in at Inter has got every single one of our strikers will be right-footed. Boni, Esposito, Lautaro, Thuram, and then, Lookman himself. That's 5 strikers, all right-footed, all that are going to have that bias to go towards the left-hand side to try to cut in. We've seen Thuram could definitely play on that right side, maybe Boni as well, but it's definitely not, the ideal situation. I think it creates a lot of bias for Inter on that left-hand side. We already have a bias because of Di Marco being on that side. Usually we build up on that side because of Bastoni, Di Marco, etc. So it creates way too much of a bias on that left-hand side if guys are going to keep drifting there. Ideally, I think if you're going to play a 3-4-2-1, you need a left-footed guy to, balance out that bias and have something coming from the other side, someone cutting in with his left foot. And Kulusevski, definitely that option. Attempt 6.1 dribbles per 90. Started to add goals to his game, like we always knew Atalanta and Parma he could add. He was very good for Parma in that last season in Serie A. Not so much for Juve. But yeah, I've always enjoyed Kulusevski. Tall, strong, can add that. Maybe not pace. That's the one thing, maybe the drawback for Kulusevski. And of course, the price. Tottenham at 25 years of age are not going to let him go for cheap. A name that we were linked to, of course, the summer when we signed Frattesi and the all collapsed, is Lazar Samardzic, who has been a bit part player at Atalanta. But when he does play, he comes on, he makes a difference. He is, again, a guy that could even play as a mezzala, more of a midfielder, but definitely can dribble past his opponent, create something out of nothing. But again, not really adding in terms of pace and athleticism there. And of course, we know all about Nico Paz. It looks like he's staying at Como. It looks like Inter don't want to touch the Real Madrid buyout option or even attempt to try to buy him, even though now, if you have those 40-50 million available, again, this guy could be, a purchase that you make for right now as a CAM, but down the line as a mezzala as well, just to show you where he fits in, Nico Paz. And then again, you've got the monsters in this category as well: Musiala, Dani Olmo, Sanchez. Ooh, interesting, Sanchez from Bilbao, but those guys always have really high release clauses. Doué, of course, Sule from Roma, Florian Wirtz, of course, has gone for, was it 140 million to Liverpool. So that was the kind of attacking midfielder category. And now we get to the striker category, and where you saw my thumbnail, the guy that we actually have been linked with before, Lookman, we were linked with Luis Openda, where I was thinking it doesn't really make sense with Openda. And the reason why I chose him as not a good option for Inter is that I see him more as a striker, again, as a 3-5-2 option, as a alternative to Thuram or Lautaro. He doesn't really, he's close to 4 dribbles attempted per 90. Had a bit of an off season, I would say, for Leipzig, but he's there. He's there. Another Leipzig player, a lot of Leipzig player that we've talked about. We've been linked in. There's some cheap options out there. If everything fails, there's like Daniel Maldini from Atalanta that you could probably get on a loan or a loan to option to buy, essentially. But you can see he does well in the dribble attempted, and he definitely needs to improve his final product. Mika Otadze, again, I think I would see him more as a 3-5-2 option, as a second striker option. But with Leon, like we said with Fofana, well, actually, I forgot to mention with Fofana, with Leon, there's definitely leeway because they're in trouble. They were supposed to be relegated to the second division, but in the end, they ended up staying up. But definitely financially, they're not doing well. You could get someone like Mika Taudze, the Georgian player, for a decent price. This guy, Nick Voltemade, who had a bit of a rise over the last few weeks because of his amazing under-21 Euros with Germany and his end to the season with Stuttgart. Looks like he's going to Bayern Munich anyway for a lot of money. They're talking about over 80 million. So maybe that's out of the price range. But this guy is a tall 6'4", 6'5" guy that dribbles like a winger. Very, very interesting guy. I've seen rumors that Victor Boniface from Bayer Leverkusen, he's still only 24. He looks older than that. The Nigerian guy who had an amazing season when Leverkusen won the Bundesliga. Had a bit of an off season last year, I guess, due to injuries. But yeah, he's a guy, again, he's more of a second striker, proper striker as well. But you could see him potentially work a little bit wider. And then you can see where our boys rank at the moment. You can see Thuram used to be more towards this end before, but last season he's almost like, I don't know if he was told not to dribble by Inzaghi, or just kind of because of he played more of a centre forward, the situation didn't allow him to express himself as freely as he usually does. But I think we'll see Thuram return to dribbling more this season, because that's what Kivu said in his press conference. He wants people to take on players, win duels. This is where Lautaro is. This is where Sebastiano Esposito is, just as a quick visual. And this is where Boni is, who definitely can play one of the roles behind the striker. And the name that never goes away for Inter, Paulo Dybala, who is 31, going to be 32. But that left foot, that magic in that left foot, and still he's able to beat his player just to get his shots in. Not necessarily he's going to beat 2 or 3 players and make a 50, 60-yard run for sure. Definitely not athletic, definitely not going to be good at pressing. But for that option to bring on, or, we don't need him to be the main man like he is at Roma. We can manage his injuries and his fitness a bit better. I think he still has that 12 million release clause or something in his contract. Just something to throw out there, think about. But of course, his salary would be massive. And again, you've got the monsters of Vinicius, Mbappe, Marmoush, Ayuso Perez with a bit of an outlier season. Patrick Schick, I've always liked. And there's where Retegui. So yeah, if it doesn't work out, as you saw, there are plenty of options. They're out there in the market. If I was to pick, so as I said, I quite like the idea of building our own Ademola Lookman, having an exciting young winger that we can try to develop and get to that level in Nusa or a Fofana. I do like those names. Those are probably my favorite ones. But as I said, even a Kulusevski or a left-footed option, that would be ideal in my opinion as well, to give us that real balance going forward, which also Dybala adds to that as well. But yeah, aside of that, a lot of these profiles I would be happy with. As I said, some of them are more 3-5-2 guys, but when push comes to shove, if they offer something a little bit different to what we have, then they're worth bringing in if we don't land Ademola Lookman. But yeah, you guys let me know in the comments down below, which name out of the ones we discussed did you like? Is there some names that I missed that we should discuss or that you like? So let me know in the comments down below. Maybe we end up getting Ademola Lookman, so this video is useless, but I had fun talking about it. So I hope you enjoyed. Leave a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Ciao ragazzi, Forza Inter.